Ladies and gentlemen, she's on $1.8 trillion. She's on bills all over the place. The U.S. Treasurer of the United States for 7 years under the Obama administration. That's like dog years, 7 times 7. That's 49 years she was U.S. Treasurer. I had the opportunity to see her the other day. She is amazing. And Congress asked for a bunch of people to kind of look after America250. She was one of them. And then kind of like drawing the short straw or winning the lottery, Willy Wonka chocolate factory ticket, they asked her to be in charge. And, I think, Rosa, thank you for joining us. Thank you for arranging your schedule. So, Rosa, just as the U.S. Treasurer, what was that like? And how do you feel when your signature's on a bill? And do you get relatives that say, I saw you on the bill?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you so much for having me. Glad we can make this work. I'm literally zooming in from Los Angeles, where we are having one of our signature events on July 4th here at the LA Coliseum, and excited to get this countdown underway for a week from Saturday for July 4th. 8 years on this commission, 4 years as chair, and absolutely those are dog years. So yes, I was Treasurer of the United States for 8 years under President Obama, and technically, I guess this is my 5th administration, if you count my time on the Treasury Federal Reserve transition team at the height of the financial crisis under Secretary Paulson and President Bush. And it's always an honor to serve. But yes, having my signature on $1.8 trillion out of the $2.2 trillion in circulation worldwide, it's a great novelty, that's for sure.
So 1876, Alexander Graham Bell invented the telephone. 1976, the John Hancock building was built. The windows were falling out. As you and your team kind of thought about this anniversary, how much did you draw upon the past ones, the 100-year anniversary, the 200th anniversary? And then my follow-up question is, in the tricentennial, what do you think people are going to draw upon this moment?
Yeah, a great question. So, yes, we as a commission, we're the national organization charged by Congress to lead the planning, the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. And we absolutely drew upon what happened way back when, even in 1776, of course, 1876. And look, I remember the bicentennial of 1976. And so I was almost 11 years old. I was growing up in the Bay Area. And it was a very, very grand time. And I felt more than anything hopeful. I felt very, very hopeful. I felt extremely patriotic. My parents came from Mexico and they landed in Hayward, California in 1958 because my dad was a seasonal migrant worker at the Hunt's tomato factory in Hayward. 11 years and 9 kids later, my mom left an abusive relationship. My dad returned to Mexico. My mom made the conscientious effort to stay in the Bay Area in this great country because she knew we would have a better life, and somehow as a single parent sent all 9 of us off to college. So I am the American dream, and I remember clearly.
And you matriculated from Harvard, right?
It was a cloudy night in Hayward, California in 1966, but those fireworks were never brighter, that's for sure. And I was just immensely grateful to my mom for making that decision to stay in this land of opportunity. But yes, speaking of Harvard, yes, I went there, my son went there, but here's the interesting coincidence, maybe, I don't know, but I was actually Harvard's student representative in 1986 for their 350th anniversary. So there I was sitting in between Secretary George Shultz and John Lithgow, who was the MC, and thinking at that time, gosh, who would have thought, right? So here we are 40 years later, and maybe it was maybe it was my fate to chair America250. And really kind of take this journey as a country in a way that we've never really taken before.
So in the year, 100 years at the tricentennial, what do you think people will draw upon this moment? Because today,
50 years from now, right? And hopefully my kids will remember this. I'm sure they will. And hopefully all of our kids will remember what this time was like, because this is how we learn, right? I mean, think about 50 years ago, our country was coming out of Watergate, coming out of the Vietnam War. The Bicentennial Commission was actually disbanded. 3 years prior to the bicentennial and was repurposed as this administrative body because there were concerns by Congress that President Nixon at the time would use this for political purposes. Our economy wasn't great. So it is interesting, 50 years later, here we are, and this is how we learn. And I would like to think that 50 years from now, that our democracy will still be in place and as strong as ever, that our three branches of government will work together exactly as our founding fathers envisioned, and that I hope, I know that America will always be great. It always has been great, and I think that that we have survived many things in the past, and I think 50 years from now we're gonna be as strong as ever, no doubt in my mind.
Great. So my next question is: we have 32 speakers. You're one of them presenting today. We're actually at the halfway mark. We have an anesthesiologist. We have a guy who invented fusion. We have a full range. Everyone's giving messages about where they think the world is going and what they hope for. What do you hope for in terms of innovations, in terms of our society for the future? What would you like to say on this archive recording at GBH? That what's your wish for what we would achieve for the future?
Yeah, I would say there's two things, and then I'll put it kind of into practice. So one is, I want as many Americans as possible to feel like this is a land of opportunity all over again, exactly how I felt when I was almost 11 years old in 1976. And two, I want people to feel a love of country, and really embrace what our founding fathers envisioned, which is you can still love your country and want it to be more perfect. And I would say, for America 250, it is as much about the future as it is the past. And many of our programs, our values-based programs, are focused on this next generation. And specific to innovation, one program that we just finished in the spring was America Startup. America Startup, think of it as Shark Tank for college kids. And so this is kind of a way, what better. The reason why we focused on college kids was that there was that Gallup poll that happened last fall that showed that 18 to 29-year-olds, so basically Gen Z, are the most cynical, the most disconnected, and the least patriotic of a generation in forever. And so as I thought about that concept and thinking, what better way to kind of show them the opportunity to own their future than by giving them an opportunity to be part of this movement that normally, when you think about these university competitions, the focus is usually on graduate students. That's where the patents are, the research, that's where the work experience is. And so we specifically only focused on undergrads and at accredited colleges, universities, and trades. We included the trades. And the response was overwhelming. We received proposals in a 6-week period from hundreds of colleges and universities across the country. And we flew all 30 of the semifinalists to Draper University in Silicon Valley in partnership with Tim Draper and Draper Associates. And these and I say kids, they're adults, are amazing. I mean, they are AI native. In fact, of the 30 semifinalists, 29 of them integrated AI into their business proposals. Incredible, absolutely incredible. And the ideas that they came up with, brilliant students. And I am very hopeful for the future with that level of ideation, that level of innovation, that level of hope that not only they feel, they're actually doing. And we're actually doing it again in the fall, going bigger and better. And we want to keep this going to invest in this next generation.
So my last question is, what are you doing on the 4th? But before I ask you that, I want to say, who's met the 43rd Treasurer of the United States? It should be all of you because she's right here. Raise your hand. Right. Who is proud that this public figure who's leading America 250, her calendar is public, is joining us today, validating that we are part of American history? Who thinks that her spending time with us is meaningful and will send a message that what we're doing is important? And I want to say right now, right here, that while we're doing this a few weeks before July 4th, I hope this becomes an annual thing where we're dreaming about the future at a time when sometimes it's hard to think 5 minutes into the future, that we're going to use this occasion to kind of start a tradition, kind of like Nightline was started around the Iran hostage crisis is a little different. But we want to keep doing this. Who thinks that's a good idea, and proud that Rosa made time for us? All right.
Well, and on that note, it doesn't end on July 4th. So I will be on July 3rd. I'll be in New York City because that's when we're doing, you probably heard we made the announcement. We're doing the first ever ball drop outside of Times Square to ring in July 4th on July 3rd. Well, I'm here to share with you, we're actually not doing a ball drop. We're doing 8 ball drops. 8 ball drops to represent the 8 time zones of the US. So people probably don't know that. And so this is kind of a great way. So just to put in perspective, at 10 a.m. on July 3rd, that is actually midnight in Guam and the Northern Mariana Islands. Then 21 hours later and 8 ball drops later is American Samoa. We already are a nation of nations. And this is kind of a great way to appreciate who we are as a country and really think about the responsibility that we have in this global platform. And the eyes of the world are going to be watching what happens in the US between the World Cup, the 250th, and the LA Olympics 2 short years later. I mean, we say 350 for 250 to engage all 350 million Americans, but maybe it's 8 billion for 250. But so I will be there in Times Square with those 8 ball drops. And then literally the next day, I will be here where I am now in LA at the LA Coliseum for America's Block Party. And why that's so important. So America's Block Party is this first ever synchronized 4th of July celebration around the country. But we're also launching Giving Forth. Giving Forth is making July 4th kind of the new season of giving. So when people think about giving back, a lot of, most nonprofits receive about 1/3 of their income at the end of the calendar year when people are thinking about their tax deductions. So we're using the Semiquincentennial as a moment to create a movement to move that needle to midway through the year in July, to give early and give often and empower nonprofits to do what they do best. They feed the hungry, they house the unhoused. And so making this a new tradition. And this July 4th is kind of like the baseline, working towards this journey for next July 4th, making next July 4th the largest day of giving in our country's history. And we're bringing it to the East Coast. So, and Boston, I wish I could be there. Boston is one of our priority cities in our legislation. So thank you all for what you're doing. And please join us on July 4th. And then what better way to give back than by giving forth?
And Rosa, I have an announcement. I've been talking to your team about this, and I don't know if you are aware of this, but we're going to take the 32 talks today and edit it into a highlight reel that you as a public leader, public figure, can tweet and share and validate, assuming you feel good about the content, which I know you will. But I want to thank you in advance for helping amplify the voices and for being future-oriented in addition to celebrating the past and helping us with the present. I think a lot of people should grow up and be like you. You're awesome, and thank you for joining us at GBH today.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.